Call the meeting to order. January 18, 2023, Dr. Victor Trevino, Mayor City of Laredo. Meeting as MPO Policy Committee meeting. With the agenda. First is roll call, Chairperson. Roll
Yes.
call.
Yes, Mayor. Ms. Briones will call roll.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Mayor Dr. Victor Trevino,
Present.
Judge Ana Tijerina,
President.
Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez,
Present.
Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez, Commissioner John Galo, Councilmember Vanessa Perez, Mr. Epigmenio Epi Gonzalez,
Present.
Mr. Jed Brown.
Present.
For the record, Mayor, you do have a quorum.
Motion to excuse the individuals that are not here.
Second. Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We move on to citizens' comments.
There's no comments at this time. There are no comments.
No comments at the time.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Go
if
ahead.
we could have the record reflect that Mr. Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez is here.
Noted.
Okay. All right, let's move on to items requiring policy committee action. A, approval of the minutes for the meeting held on November the 16th, 2022. So moved.
Second, if there's no further amendments or anything that's, will be added.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. B, receive public testimony and approve resolution number MPO 2023-01, adopting the following proposed amendments to the 2023-2026 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP.
Thank you, Mayor. For this item, it is to receive public testimony as well. So we had to open up public comment period back in November. So here we need to make sure that if there's anyone here to speak for or against this item.
Yes, you can do it right now.
Okay, for and against? Anybody for or against? Anybody for or against? And anybody for or against? All right.
We can close it now?
Yes, we can close.
Motion to close, please.
Second. Motion, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes.
So I just wanted to present real quick this item. This is for the public hearing, but we're, again, for the record, Interim Director Juan Mendive for the MPO. So you see, we have a very few slides here. So just as a reminder, this is for an amendment to the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. So the federal law requires that MPOs, in cooperation with the state and affected transit operators, develop a Transportation Improvement Program, TIP, for their planning areas for a 4-year period. Also, all MPO TIP documents are subsequently combined to form the statewide Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP. TxDOT amends the STIP on a quarterly basis. So these amendments you have before you are for the February revision. So that's the next quarterly revision.
I'm sorry, where are they at?
That's on the next page, but they are in your package. In your packet, it's the Lomas del Sur project, the overpass at Loop 20, and then the removal of the ADA bus stops and bicycle plazas. So it is in your packet. Are you seeing this on your screen as well?
Which one?
Yeah.
Judge.
It's here. Okay.
Try to see if you can toggle.
So in November, we had initiated a comment review period for these items. We did not have a meeting in December, so we're bringing them back to close at this meeting. Again, the project is the addition of CSJ 0086-16008, intended to provide for the construction of an interchange at Lomas del Sur Boulevard and Loop 20. The estimated construction cost is $30,240,000. Category 7 funds in the amount of $7,030,287 have been allocated for this project. Other funding amounts include $23,209,713 in Category 2 funds. The project sponsor is TxDOT, and the proposed letting date for this project is fiscal year 2025. The other project that was also presented in November was to remove the ADA bus stops and bicycle plazas project. This advanced funding agreement for the project has been terminated at the request of the project sponsor. Category 9 funds in the amount of $180,000 that were previously allocated to this project have been removed, and they've been added to the Category 9 available funding balance, which can be awarded to other eligible projects. Those are the
That's
two
it.
items.
Motion to, this is the last one that y'all sent us, right? This was for the last MPO situation that we talked about and stuff like that?
Yeah, they were the ones in November that we opened the comment.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Just a quick comment, if I may.
Yes.
I know it says letting date FY 2025. I know we had mentioned, and I think we mentioned in the past two meetings,
Right.
if anything with our Charlie project, we might be able to let this project FY 2024. How is that looking per se with the Charlie? We're short regardless with the Charlie, so we're gonna have to reevaluate that with the Cat 7 funds or not?
Right, so with this, the Cat 7 funds are programmed for Lomas del Sur, and we're going with that FY 2025 date, because I know that's what TxDOT had in their UTP, so that's the day we're going with. If for whatever reason it speeds up, we could accelerate that, but I think that's an actual timetable, so I want to ask TxDOT to just make sure that Lomas del Sur, we're looking at FY 2025, correct?
Yeah, so I guess I'll redirect it to TxDOT. So we have talked about maybe letting in 2024, depending if Cat 7 funds were needed for the Achar Ruthinger for that year, 2024. Now we see that Achar Ruthinger is short regardless of those Cat 7 funds in 2024. So I know we're waiting to bring that, or we're going to discuss it in this agenda. We were going to wait to be able to apply for, what were the funds?
Category 12?
Cat 12 funds. So if we do apply for those Cat 12 funds, is this still a scenario to be able to let a year earlier for this project?
So, Roberto, I'll let you answer that question.
Roberto Rodriguez with TxDOT. No, based on the schedules that we have with the consultant, we're actually just bringing a consultant on board for the development of the PSME. But at the same time, they're looking at the entire corridor of Cuatro Vientos, because in our plans, that may be the future Interstate 2. So we're looking from 359 all the way to the Mangana High and the extension. So based on their design schedule, it may have to be late 2024 calendar year, but it will be 2025 fiscal year.
Okay.
So it might be
Correct.
November, December
It-
24, but it's
It
gonna
starts September 1st,
Correct.
FY 2025, right?
Correct.
And that money is there in 2024 still, because it hasn't been programmed to Achar Ruthinger or any other project. So it is there, but really then the question becomes the timeline. Even if the money's there, can it be let in 2024? If not, there's no use changing it on the tip.
All right. I guess just for the record, Mayor, I do want to state that I don't want to prolong a Charlie at all. This was just an idea, and it was already in the talks about FY 2024 for Cat 7 funds.
Any further discussion or questions? Go ahead.
Yeah,
So there's a motion already.
sorry, you have a motion, sir.
To adopt the resolution
Okay.
for you.
Motion,
Motion is second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
So the next item is also a similar item. This is to amend the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So as per our public participation plan, we require a 10-day public review and comment period for any amendments to the MTP.
This one,
10-day, yes,
if you don't mind,
go ahead.
and this really has a little bit more, and this is actually, I'm going to try to align myself a little bit more with the city of Laredo. I think it's important, but I know these Category 9 monies, how much are we actually utilizing and how much are we actually sending back to Austin? Because some of these Category 9 monies, with the sidewalks and whatnot, especially with Metro being a part of it, how much is the city of Laredo actually spending money? Because there's a lot of money that we're sending back, aren't we?
Yeah, so that money is not going back to Austin, it's staying within our funds. So we're putting that into the other call for projects that we did. You remember we initiated a call for projects in October for those Category 9 funds. We received 2 applications for those funds. So there's another project by the Metro and then a project by the Downtown Terrace.
But aren't we isn't it if we approve this agenda item, aren't we sending monies back?
That was money that had been programmed in prior years.
So that's my
Yeah,
point.
those were prior years. That money,
But that's my point. How much have we been leaving on the table prior years?
well, there's projects that are programmed right now and that are still in the works, so the money is not necessarily being left on the table because there's funds that are programmed for those projects. So we have a couple of projects already that the city's doing. So for example, there's a project along the Rio Vega, going from Laredo College to Ana Park in West Laredo. That's under design right now, so that project's moving forward. So that's one project that's moving forward.
If you don't mind.
Yes.
I understand the projects you all are doing, but it sounds here, funds in the amount of $180,000 previously allocated to the project has been removed. And that's all I'm saying is that I would just make sure that we're doing everything we can to use every dollar that we have, especially the city of Laredo. I know we could look and take these to different areas of the Webb County, but more so for the city of Laredo, because I know they have a lot of projects with their, their bus stops and their sidewalks and whatnot. But if we're sending back $180,000, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, no, so to clarify, those $180,000 are not going back right now. To say there's still monies that we can award. So that money, we put it in our last call for projects. So that funding is going to be awarded to another local project. Right now, we haven't awarded those funds yet, but they will be awarded to another local project. And so we opened that call for projects back in October. We received the applications by November 18th. We have those, we're reviewing those. We're going to have an evaluation committee look at those. I have that updated in my director's report. In February, we're hoping that we'll bring those to you to allocate those funds. But these 180 that are being returned were added to the available funding to award in the community.
Okay.
So we're still programming those
Just for
projects.
my info, my education as well, even after being here quite a bit of time still. Is it allocated every year? Is that the way it works?
These funds are allocated every year. So we get an annual allocation, and TxDOT wants us to award 3 years in advance because they want these projects to be moving forward.
How much are we allocated every year?
It was about 350,000. It's gone up to almost 700,000 with the new IIJA money.
So then if we get 300,000 and we're obviously going 180, so we're losing, so we only spent 120,000.
Those 180,000 were from previous years, from that 300. So there's other projects that are programmed, so this can be used for other projects in future years. So it's not necessarily just money that's, like you said, being left on the table.
I guess my point is this, I'm not trying to put anybody or just put you in a corner here, and if that's the way it sounds, forgive me.
No,
My deal is that we just have to utilize every penny that we have received, and that we will be receiving, that's all I'm saying.
and that's why we're looking at this, and that's why this project was brought forward to be removed, because El Metro and the city realized that they needed a lot more money to be able to let this project. So they said, you know what, we're not gonna be able to get this project done, let's give the money back, and we can use it now as an MPO to award to other projects. And we did that when I did the presentation for the call for projects. We did mention that that money was gonna be used for that call for projects too. So we had 2.4 million available for that call
So
for
these
projects.
funds do not have a sunset, they do not have an expiration date?
They do, the federal funds do, so they have to be, it's within 3 years, but it's, so they do have a sunset, but for example, these funds are still being used. Once we award them, you have to have the project led within 3 years. So that's why it's important that these projects move forward. So we work with TxDOT closely to make sure that the projects are moving forward. So the sunset is based on the funding year. So you got to look at when the funds were awarded, or when the funds were given or allocated to the MPO. And then from there, they should be led in 3 years.
Well, regardless now, I just hope I made my point.
No,
that
and I
we
can
just
give a-
need to utilize every
We do.
penny that we
And I
get.
can give a presentation at the next meeting, and I want to do that because hopefully we'll be bringing back that call for projects on those TA set-aside funds, which is category 9. So when we do that and we bring that back, we can provide a presentation again, an overview on how those funds work and what our available balance is. But like I said, in this last call for projects, we awarded $2.4 million, and that $2.4 million included money for, I believe it was 2022, 2023, 2024, and also a portion of this money that was being returned as well. Projects from before right now, they're in progress.
Okay.
Projects that have been awarded before.
I could go on and on, but I'm good, thanks.
Just a follow-up
Yes.
question. Who keeps tabs on when the funds that were not used will expire?
TxDOT.
But do we get a report or
Yes, they get sent us an obligation every month. We get reports from TxDOT, and they're keeping track of these funds. The MPO doesn't actually have a bank account where we keep these funds. TxDOT houses these funds, and as we're programming projects, they're channeled to those projects.
Would you do that, please, Mr. Chairman? Would you just bring that into us next month,
Yeah.
next month's meeting, please, for these Cat 9 funds?
Yeah,
See
we'll
what
present
we're
that.
allocated to.
Yeah, of course,
Thank you.
no problem. So yeah, so before you have the MTP amendment, I was mentioning whatever's done to the tip needs to be done to the MTP too. So we're asking for a revision to our Appendix A, short-range projects identified in the MTP are listed on the tip as necessary to incorporate and reflect the proposed revisions to the 2023-2026 tip. And that's to, for this project for Lomas del Sur. The Lomas del Sur project was already listed in the MTP, but we need to update the project information, like the letting date, funding description, so it's exactly like what we have on the tip.
This one's for number 2, right? We're on number 2 right now?
Yes, the second.
So we need a motion?
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Motion passes. Next, are we on
C.
C?
No, that was letter C, right?
No, I think.
Oh, letter C, now we're going to letter
We're doing
D.
number 2.
No, we did letter C,
With the letter C already?
so we're now there.
Okay.
It was just hand in hand with the,
That was resolution number 2.
Yeah.
And
Okay, gotcha.
So, not letter C,
we're going to letter D now?
letter D.
Well, C1, no? Revision of Apex Appendix
Yes.
A?
that's what we just approved.
Okay, very good. Just making sure. So it's D now. Yeah.
Okay, item D.
We're here to help each other out. Don't worry. We get lost every now and then like we all do. We're humans. We're good.
Letter D, discussion with possible action to approve resolution number MPO 2023-03, adopting and supporting the Texas Department of Transportation's 2023 targets for the following federal safety performance measures.
So moved.
Second, discussion, I don't know, we jumped into
I
it.
can just give a quick overview, if I may.
Motion, second?
He's going to give a quick overview.
I'll give a quick overview of the safety.
Okay.
Give a quick
A
overview.
discussion, okay, go ahead.
So these are brought to you every year. These are TxDOT safety targets that are set. So federal regulations require that the metropolitan and statewide transportation planning processes incorporate performance goals, measures, targets in the process of us identifying needed transportation improvements and project selection. So TxDOT has updated these statewide safety targets for 2023 for the following federally established safety measures. So again, these are federally required, right? So we need to be setting targets for a number of traffic fatalities, rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicles miles traveled, or VMT, number of serious injuries, rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicles miles traveled, VMT, and then the number of non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries. Then MPO shall adopt these required safety performance targets not later than 180 days after the date on which the state establishes those performance targets. We still have some time to approve them, but wanted to bring them at this meeting to already, start the year off right and adopt these targets. And how do we use these targets in our metropolitan planning work and our long-range work? We make sure that we're incorporating safety elements. When we're selecting projects for the TIP, we make sure that these projects also have safety elements in them, that they're promoting safety in one way or another. So these are the 2023 safety targets. They need to be adopted as a 5-year average. So these are the numbers here. So for 2023, as a 5-year average for number of traffic fatalities, we have 3,682. The rate of fatalities, that's 1.38. Number of serious injuries, 17,062. Serious injury rate, 16.39. And then the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries is 2,357. So these are the safety targets set by the state, and the resolution states that the MPO will, adopt these, and we will go ahead and make sure that our planning work incorporates these targets. I'll take any questions you may have.
Call the question, please.
Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Letter E, discussion with possible action on the Char Ruthinger Road project.
Yes, good afternoon, Roberto again with TxDOT. And for that, we're gonna have Ms. Dana Duncan do an update on the project.
You can unplug the one. You can unplug the phone.
Mayor, May,
Go ahead.
looks like we're going for a good time, so I like it. This one's gonna get a little long, though, I have a feeling. No, she says.
Okay. Good afternoon, Anna Duncan with TxDOT for the record. This is really just going to be a brief update from what we spoke of, I guess, 2 months ago. And we were asked by Mr. Galo at that time to bring forth a schedule of the project itself.
Beautiful, thank you for that.
So that's what we kind of developed here. I worked in collaboration with Ramon Chavez and his team from the city to combine both our efforts here.
Thank you.
So the main components that are really impacting the project are the right-of-way, the utilities, the plan development, and of course, the roadway transfer in the end. What you see in blue will be work related to TxDOT. What you see in green is work related to City of Laredo. So initially, the step that we are at now, we've already completed our 30% PS&E, so we've taken that off the schedule. And we're at January 2023. We were a little delayed on the right-of-way mapping. We did receive it late in December. We're on the second review right now and should have that completed and to the city by the beginning of February. City has estimated that they will take about 4 months to complete the appraisals and the acquisition of the right-of-way. So that puts us to June. We'll have about a month to two to review to ensure that they did follow Title III checklist and all the requirements because of the federal funding on the project. So we anticipate right-of-way clearance for this project by July of 2023. Going to utilities, the City of Laredo was in the process of procurement for a consultant for this work. They have that on the agenda for the City Council. It got postponed and pushed for today, so hopefully we'll have that approved and they'll be able to execute their contract. They estimate doing that by mid-February. And with that, we will be coordinating our consultant with their consultant to make sure that all the information is transferred. They estimated about a month or two to do the coordination. We've extended that a little bit based on our experience at TxDOT and pushed that to 3 months. And then with the relocation design agreements, that takes it to 4 months. And that falls in line with the development of our PS&E as well. We would assume we would need to be at least at about a 90% PS&E for the utility coordination to be complete. Utility relocations would likely begin, assuming everything falls into place, August of 2023. And we've estimated right now 6 months to complete all relocations. And that was, again, coordination with the city. That, again, we don't know exactly until we get a little bit more information when our consultants have met and we know exactly what utilities we are dealing with, what kind of plan the city has and the utility providers have to be able to complete those relocations. We do have to follow utility accommodation rules because of the federal funding that's on the project and because we will be taking this roadway on system. So we want to work on that now as opposed to having to come back and do it again later. So hopefully we will have our utilities adjusted if this 6 months sticks by the end of January 2024. So with respect to PS&E, that's the plan specifications and estimate. That is what TxDOT is working on. Like I mentioned, we've completed our 30%. We have our 60% estimated for April of 2023. And we have this length here for 100% by August of 2023. We also have an interim submittal between there, which is 90%, which is going to assist us with having the utilities design complete. Our milestone is to have everything ready to let by October. And by ready to let, we need to have,
Drum roll, please.
ready to let is a definition that has been established by TxDOT, which is 4 months prior to the letting date. We need to have all agreements in place, our plans complete, funding secured, and all those components together. So you can see we still have utilities to clear during that time, but as long as we have a plan in place to clear them, that can happen during construction. So that's why we're targeting October, which would push our letting to February of 2024. Right now, we currently have the project in September of 2023. So you can see we're pushing it back a few months because of the unknowns that we have with respect to right-of-way utilities at this time. As we move forward month by month, we can come back and revisit, let you know what has happened, and hopefully we can find areas where we can squeeze that schedule a little bit more, as much as we can, and hopefully bring that letting sooner.
So
We all,
Mayor, if I can, real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
So I know we originally had a letting date of August 2023, but because of the funding gap, we said, let's push it to the one more month, which is
next fiscal
the
year.
next fiscal year. So now from September, we're saying,
August of
let's say,
2024.
we're gonna go February 2024. Right, so we're moving it,
And this has no discussion about the funding whatsoever. If you can see,
That was
we're
my next
talking
question.
about, yeah, we're talking strictly about the development of the plans, the right-of-way, the utilities. At this point, we still have that funding gap that we talked about. We also have, and let me just finish on this schedule here, we have what's called the roadway transfer. That is when we'll develop the agreement with the city and TxDOT to be able to transfer the roadway, and then our roadways will go to the city. We'll be developing that agreement. We need to have the right-of-way cleared already for that, so we won't be able to begin those documents till about August, and then it'll be about a month to 2 months for the commission to approve that. Based on this schedule, we can have that in place perfectly before we let the project, so this looks really pretty. Now we need to get the money.
that was my next question.
We submitted, I don't know if I may, or you want to discuss about the funding?
We were going so well.
Yes, well, on the funding, as you remember, we're asking for Category 12 funds. Now, we have two alternatives. We said the worst case scenario, we only get the reduced scope, which is a two-lane road. It's gonna be about $90-something million. We can use the remaining of the Cat 7, we'll let something, by the end of the year. But if we request Category 12 and, God willing, we get some of those funds, the project needs to be revised on the tip. So what's gonna happen, the next revision is about November. So that's a good thing. We get the Cat 12, we do the revisions in November, then we can let the project.
So I remember we said we were pushing something to this meeting, we didn't take action, or we're supposed to bring back something to take action to be able to apply for Cat 12s? Do we need it?
Correct. That was the reason we had to push it a month, which was fiscal year, so that we can request funds on the UTP. The Category 12, because that's the only funds that we could apply for. Now, if we get the funds, the UTP may be updated for the Category 12, but the STIP and the TIP, just what we did, we have to go to voting, we have to amend it, and the November amendment, and then we'll be able to let the project. If we don't get any additional Cat 12, then we can use the Cat 7, that we have on program.
Which will push Lomas further.
No, we can request approval to just use the remaining or Cat 7.
Or it will,
Yeah, we're trying not to impact ICU, we're not impact Lomas projects at all.
It actually, if you look at, Mayor, if I may, if you look at the 10 years of Cat 7, it actually works out. The difference that's remaining would fund what I believe is called 3A modified, the 90 million. There's funds to get it done. But if the Cat 12, you don't find out about that, Robert, until August, right? That's when the gavel strikes.
It's officially approved in August. Well, hopefully by May, June, we already have an idea. It's already, do have a draft on what's going to be approved. But the final one, the approval is in August.
this would be, obviously our friend Tito is up there to reach out to, maybe we can go
Yes,
visit with him or something.
you got his number.
I have him on.
Yeah, as a reminder, after the program projects that we have, like Vallecillo, Lomas del Sur, the Loop 20, outer loop extension now that we awarded $1 million for the right-of-way phase, It would still be about $52 million available in CAT 7.
I do have a few slides that show the, just snippets of last meeting that we had. If I provided available just to show in case, I knew we'd have some new faces here today. But I do want to point out, like Roberto was saying, we have our 100% plans to be finalized by August of this year. And this is with respect to the modified design. If we find out that we need to go forth and do the full development, we'll be able to do that here with, from that date, which is the July, I don't know if you see my pointer, yeah, okay. So from that date, moving, 4 to 6 months, and that's a lot of time actually, but we have at least 4 to 6 months to make that change to those plans and have it ready for the full project.
Anna, but we are starting the process now as far as procuring the
We're in
consultant for
line.
Yes,
the alternate section, right?
yes, sir. So we'll have actually both plan sets ready, but we do have that extra time in between there as well.
And I'm trying to remember here and there what Commissioner Gato made some great points about, obviously, the options that we had. I don't quite remember what options we agreed on, or did we agree on something already or not? Okay. The other thing I remember Commissioner Gato said, and now I remember, yes, worst case scenario, we go to CAT 7 funds, but all we're doing, if we go to CAT 7 funds, all we're doing is we're taking a chunk of what we can in the future. And we're not gonna have that opportunity in the future for other projects. So hopefully, we have the CAT 12 funds.
Which goes back to CAT 12. Thank you, Mayor, which goes back to CAT 12. And Epi, Robert, all of y'all at TxDOT, are you allowed to actually actively, I'm going to use the word lobby, but can you push hard for those funds, or is it incumbent on the city, the county, the MPO to go ask for those CAT 12 funds? Because there's so many different communities that are vying for those discretionary funds. It really takes a lot of work.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that's something that, we cannot necessarily lobby for those funds. So
would be
that's
yes.
something that you all would have to, I mean, again, but having that, I guess I think it's important also to state that, asking for that full amount to be covered with Category 12 funds it's going to be extremely challenging. If it's perhaps a combination of funds, perhaps it's a little bit easier to cover that delta, the difference, right?
Mayor, Judge, I've been in the room with Mark Williams where he brings those very things up, and he might ask for some sort of sharing of CAT 7 and CAT 12. I mean, I could see that happening, but it would be nice not to have to ask for CAT 7 funds and to get it all in CAT 12, but yeah.
Mayor, can the record reflect that
Yes.
Councilmember Vanessa Perez has joined us for the MPO?
Yes, go ahead and do that.
So we're talking about Charles Ruthinger letting date and,
Has it changed?
Yes, did you want to ask something?
I don't know if you want to bring her up to speed real quick on just that page?
Okay.
Summary.
We've incorporated the information from both the city and ourselves that what we'll be needing to do to complete the project. And we have the dates estimated for the right-of-way acquisition, the utility coordination, as well as the plan submittal and the roadway transfer. And so with that in place, we are estimating a January or February 2024 letting date. That allows us the ample time to complete utility investigations and move all of your utilities, which is something that pretty much needs to already be taking place at the time that we do the roadway transfer. And it's important that we complete the roadway transfer prior to letting, to allow it to be an on-state system roadway and minimize the cost to the city of Laredo.
Pretty much, Councilwoman, hello, August 2024. August 2024.
So a whole year? February
February.
2024.
Well, February, but then you have about a 3 or 4 month cushion, is that correct? I mean.
No, that's,
No.
it's October to
We're
February.
targeting February 2024, assuming the utilities can be cleared and the right-of-way can be acquired according to this time frame.
But
Now, with
you
respect to the
yourself-
funds that we were talking about, those we'll find out about this year. And if we do get them, we would likely have to let the project no earlier than April of '24 because of
I'm
the
sorry, I was
state
just,
provision.
I was just following what you had said a little while ago with a complete utility relocation from the green, which is the city of Laredo. That's why you were just kind of a little bit hesitant to kind of propose or concrete, make that into concrete. So that's why I was just saying August of 2024 is probably going to be more than likely, the time it's going to be letting.
But you would proceed even if all the utilities are not taken care of, right?
They need to have a plan in place. So as long as the utility relocations have already a plan in place, we do typically get approval to move. And then we schedule the project in phases so that we can work around the schedule itself.
Mayor, the reason that we do require a construction management plan is because, you know, we need to demonstrate to administration that the contractor's not gonna be, I guess, held back from advancing the project, right? If we hold back the contractor, then we start incurring damage claims and delays and things like that, right? So any project that does not meet the definition of our ready-to-let, which means right-of-way, utilities, environmental, all that work being completed needs to have a construction management plan. And that's basically a safety net to make sure that us, you know, that we don't incur additional costs.
Right, understood.
May I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
So the frustrating thing, and I apologize for being late, I had some issues, but the frustrating thing about this is that every single month for the past 2 years that I've been here, we talk about Hachar-Ruthinger, and it's like once this administration switched over, now we're having totally different conversations. We were always, every month, are we on track? Are we on track? Are we on track? And then last month is when we got that big blow to us that we're $88 million short, which we still haven't like gotten over the shock of that. And now we're having, and then we kind of tried to figure out like plan A, plan B, plan C, and which one are we gonna go with? And then we still mentioned that the letting date wouldn't change. It would, at worst case scenario, go from August to September. And now this month, we're having a totally different conversation because now you're saying April, March, like, how is it that this project is changing so drastically from 1 month to the next when this has been on our radar long term, and this is something that our community so desperately needs? And it seems like everybody's pointing fingers at somebody else, and this is not serving the community properly. Like, we are all supposed to be making sure that this gets done and that there's monies and that it's not like, oh, well, now let's look at it from a different lens and let's look at it from a different lens and now we need this and now we need that. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like next month we're gonna have a different conversation and we're gonna have a new letting date and we're gonna be short another 10 million, or, let's just not do it at all, or who knows what we're gonna hear next month. Like, we were consistent for so many months and years, and now every month it changes. I'm very, very concerned of the pattern that's going on here with this project.
I understand your frustration, Ms. Perez. 2 months ago, we did present to you where we were at that point, and we also presented what got us to that point. And so we are set on that is our estimate, and I'm going to present it here in a few minutes so for everyone else. Again, just those brief points. We had to make a selection on the direction we wanted to go, knowing that we had that funding deficiency there. We needed to make a decision. We also knew that we were going to be proposing to try to get the Category 12 funding for the entire corridor. And to do that, we needed to move the project from one fiscal year to the other. So that is why we moved it from August to September. And then we were asked by Mr. Galo to bring back a truthful schedule based on not just TxDOT's perception of the project, but also the coordination that we have to do with the city of Laredo, because this project is very unique. We're working with both the city to do their right-of-way and their utilities, and we have to do the PS&E. And it's very difficult because it's going to be going back and forth, and we need to coordinate very well. So that's what we
Just a
show.
point of clarification on that, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
You just said something very interesting. You said we need to come with a truthful, kind of caught it like what you had said before wasn't entirely truthful, and then you needed to come with something that was truthful. That's how I understood what you just said, I'm sorry. And you did mention the coordination, so I don't know if the coordination hasn't been there or there's been miscommunication between entities, but whatever's been happening, we need to get it figured out and quickly, because we went from August to September to now April, and we can't keep moving the date. Like, we have to get this figured out, we need to get it funded, and we need to get it done, and we need to stop making excuses.
Understood completely, yes. And we do have that in place now. We weren't able to coordinate completely with the city of Laredo because a lot of it fell on us to go back and review everything that we had received from both city and county from the original project. We came to that decision. We went through everything. And the reason I said truthful, I mean, that is what Mr. Galo was asking for. He goes, I want to know what's really happening. I want to know. So we developed the schedule, and we made sure we went through every point that we need to complete. And we also phased it to show you what needs to happen before the next step and how we're coordinating with each other to get there. And this is what we've come up with here. And if you need me to explain it again, I will gladly go through it.
Mayor, Judge, before we move on back to the schedule, as a business person, I'm always focused on how do you pay for something. And I think because this is an on-system roadway, we're talking about Category 12, which is discretionary funds that the commission can pick, which is the ideal situation. But I do believe, and I remember this from an RMA meeting, there are other sources of funds because it's on system, and Epi, if I'm wrong, correct me, but Category 2, Category 4 mobility funds, there are other ways that we might be able to put the monies together for this. So although I know we need to focus on going after Cat 12 funds, we need to look at every option to cover the gap and come up with a plan and approach of how we put the monies together to get the road built, whether it's option 3A or the whole full design project.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
We spoke last time, and we had agreed that we would move the letting date so we could ask for those Cat 12s, but that as a backup plan, we did have the monies that we were like hesitant to use in the Cat 7. But we do have the monies to fund that, best option that we were given. Ideally, we would get the whole 88 million and we would get them through, this, the Category 12s, and by moving the letting date or whatever, ideally. But I'm still not comfortable with this whole, Commissioner Galo asked for the true picture, and then that's why you're giving us the true picture, whereas before it was like we were disillusioned to believe that everything was okay, when every month we would make it a point to ask to make sure. So I just want to make sure that we push for those fundings, but we do have a backup plan, which is what we had already agreed to put those fundings there, and hopefully go out and lobby for some more money.
Council, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
Councilwoman, I totally agree with what you're saying, and it wasn't too long ago. It's not only this project, but it wasn't too long ago that the county bought a project for the Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4 of the Southern Loop. And when look at how much money there is in Category 7 now. At that meeting, there was no Category 7. So I was asking for, $1 million or $2 million, and that was turned down. So a lot of times, that's not the only project that is sometimes like we're just getting all of a sudden directed in a different direction. And it's kind of misleading at times, but I totally understand what you're saying. But this is not the only project that's happened to. So.
Any other comments?
Well, Mayor, just to add
Yes.
to Judge's comments, I mean, if that seems to be a pattern and that's something that's happening, I think we need to look into that, as why are we being informed of one thing here at the meetings and then the reality is actually something else? Like, we need to know full transparency of every single thing that's happening, and we need to know if we're on track and not just be told that yes, 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 and then we'll just hit them with it at the next meeting, because that's not functional. We're not functioning properly, and that's why so many projects are not getting completed and we're not serving the community properly.
I just wanted to clarify, Mayor, if I may, for the Category 7 funds, we've been transparent about that, about what's been available and what's not. There's issues about, what projects would be funded with the money, but I think us as an MPO staff, we've been transparent about what money is available in Category 7 into the future. So I want to make that clarification, but if you feel otherwise about that.
It's not the MPO staff, it's the reports that we get here on projects that, because all these different entities have to communicate, somewhere the communication has to be breaking down. So we need to figure out, what is it? Is it that the person that's the contact person isn't available, they don't return calls? Or are we having high turnover with the point of contacts? Is it the consulting firm that's not available? Who is it? Like, where is this happening? Because if it's not the first project, then it's not gonna be the last unless we can tie the source of the issue, like where did this go wrong?
Mayor, if I may, I'm just gonna echo a little bit, because from last month to this month, last month is where we were blindsided, and we were brought up with a huge funding gap. And we all were talking here, and we all were surprised and upset at the same time, but we said, okay, Commissioner Galo made it a point to say, you know what, gotta move forward, let's make it happen, let's choose, let's do this, bring a timeline. We convinced Councilmember Vanessa Perez to say, let's wait on a Cat 7, because if we wait one more month from letting date, it changes the whole fiscal year, but 1 month, August to September, we might be able to combine Cat 12, Cat 7, Cat 12 all the way, whatever it might be. But what if we took that initiative and said, no, I want to stick with, let's do Cat 7s? We would still be late. Now we're pushing it 4 months forward, and maybe 8 months forward. So that's the inconsistencies that we don't, it gets frustrating, because we wanted to agree to say, let's move it 1 month, and we did, to be able to apply for Cat 12. Now we're saying, even if we apply for Cat 12, it's not going to happen in September. Maybe April, maybe August of 2024. And that's the frustration.
So Commissioner, if I can, I guess, comment on that. You know, again, I understand developing projects is not an easy thing, right? Especially projects where you're working with different entities. Again, you know, we're doing the design, we're doing the project development, you know, but again, in this case, the city of Laredo is going to be acquiring the right-of-way and adjusting the utilities, right? That schedule that you proposed, even though, again, it's based on information that we got from the city, it's also very, let me just say, there's not a lot of wiggle room in that, right? So again, if things don't march, I know you're gonna, it's gonna be very easy to say, well, TxDOT, you're the one here presenting, and now you're pushing the letting date back. But again, it's also important to see that you know, we have to work with you know, with how the right-of-way gets acquired, it's dependent on utilities, how fast they can make those adjustments. It's not just depending entirely upon us or our consultant staff. It's depending on external entities, right?
No, by all means, Mr. Gonzalez, and I don't want to, and I'm not want to say TxDOT. Obviously, we know and we see it here. Now it's right there on a good, you know, summary schedule. And we see that, yeah, you're right, there's little to no wiggle room, and that's why we're saying it might be extended past February or April of 2024. It just leaves a sour mouth, and I'm not saying you, because I kept saying at last minute, you weren't even here, you know. That sour mouth stayed because all of a sudden last month, we got blindsided with that huge funding gap. And that changed everything, and here we are trying to get back on track.
And I don't take it, you know, I'm not trying to dodge any you know, I'm here representing TxDOT, and, you know, so, you know, whether I've been here a couple of months or a couple of years, it doesn't make any difference, right? But at the end, I know there's a lot of questions, but I think, and again, nobody wants to go back and you know, go through that issue. But again, I think the schedule that Ana presented, again, based on the comment that Commissioner Galo had made, I think that's, you know, now that we've had an opportunity to check with with City Laredo staff, get their input as far as the right-of-way acquisition, the utility adjustment information, that is the best case scenario. And again, it's kind of a, you know, maybe, you know, there's an opportunity to potentially move it, you know, accelerate it if things go extraordinarily well in the right-of-way acquisition and the utility adjustment. But again, there's, like I said, there's not a lot of wiggle room there.
Yes, thank you, and please remember to direct the chair when you want to speak. Thank you.
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand what you're saying. When we spoke last in the project, one of the months, we said that there would be an environmental study conducted by TxDOT. Once that study was done, that's when we would begin the right-of-way acquisition. So I know you mentioned the city. Are you saying that it's being held up in the city? I'm just trying to, I just want to trace back what went wrong and we need to make sure that, I feel like this is a communication breakdown. And I know that going forward, whatever happened wrong here, we need to not, we need to tighten up those loose ends that we have. But if it's something that the city can be done, we can do at the city, then that's something that we can take to the city and request to make this a priority or something.
Yes.
Just
Judge,
to compliment, to add for the councilwoman what she just finished saying, and this is my opinion, Commissioner Gato's not here, but him and I have spoken at length about this. The reason why he asked for this is because if you go month to month, this past year, there's been a lot of inconsistencies on what we're being told. And so all of a sudden, when we get into a situation of how many monies are in a certain bank account, how many monies are here, how many monies are there, it's been all over the spectrum. And so this is the reason why he wanted this, because now it's concrete. But if we do go back on a month to month, you're gonna see the inconsistencies of what we're being told. The frustration of up here, it's very simple. Don't take it from us, just watch the meetings. Simple as that. And so that in itself needs to start being worked out and start being a little bit, I guess, more genuine and directive to where we need to go.
All right. Anybody else? There was a motion and second. So we have to approve this?
What was the motion there?
Do we need a,
Yeah, so,
Okay, we don't need
yeah, this is a standing item that we have on every agenda to make sure that the communication continues. So sometimes there is action, sometimes there's no action.
And if I may, Judge, you mentioned you wanted something concrete. A schedule is a living document. And so as we move forward, you will see if we're able to cut it down. This is a good baseline as of right now. That includes both TxDOT and the city. Everything that's been done is no longer being looked at, and we're moving forward. So this is what you see today. And we hope that, as we move with the coordination, like our DD here said, we can crunch down that time for right away. We can crunch down that time for utilities and give you an update. So I'll continue to provide this update.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
If I may, just one comment really quickly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, it's a living document, because it's very important for all of us to understand that and to realize that. We still have supply chain issues. We still have, with your department specifically in this project, you have so many different entities that are involved with it. So one lacks 2 months, a month, 2 or 3 months back. It hinders you from giving this presentation. So like Judge mentioned, you mentioned one thing, although you haven't been in contact with, let's just say utilities, for instance, or electrical people that are out there working lines, whatever they need to do. So like Councilmember Pettis mentioned, there's a drop somewhere. Somewhere there's a gap in communication to where you're telling us one thing, they're telling us another thing, and then the line just breaks, and it just continues from there. So you've continued, not you, I'm not blaming anybody or pointing fingers, but fact of the matter is you're telling us one thing, next month is another thing, next month is another thing. So I just really think that we all need to understand that there is supply chain issues. We do have that still, and I know because I have projects that are halted in my district over and over again because of that problem that we're still having. And of course, moving projects months and months later to when the lead date was supposed to be or when the completion date was supposed to happen. That's one thing. And like I say, just try to get more communication from the other entities that you're having to deal with. Obviously, these projects are enormous and involve a lot of different entities. That way, when you do come and present to us, it is factual. It's going to get done at that particular time. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Okay. Reports and presentations. No action required. Presentation and update on the World Trade Bridge expansion project.
Yes, Mayor, Sid Milkey with Structural Engineering Associates, here to give a presentation on the World Trade Bridge project expansion. The MPO has awarded $1 million towards this project in the past. Our Federal Highway Administration representative, he did ask that this presentation be given to the MPO since there are federal monies involved. So he's actually the one that recommended that this presentation come before you. Now, Sid Milkey will provide the presentation.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
If I may, just real
Yes,
quick on this
okay.
last item, can you just email us that graph, please? That would be really beneficial for all of us.
Yes, I'll get a copy if I could.
Thank you.
From Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, sorry.
It's okay. Again, my name is Sid Milkey. I'm a structural engineering associate. We're the consultant for the city of Laredo on the World Trade Bridge expansion project. And this, my presentation is an update. It's been a while since we made a presentation to the MPO. You'll notice that on the title it does also say the Port of Entry Advisory Council. They were supposed to meet tonight, but council has to get other business done this evening. So they're going to meet, I believe, in February, and I'll make this presentation to them then. Another comment I want to make is the governor of Tamaulipas was here in Laredo on Monday, along with multiple of his secretaries, Secretary of Finance, Secretary of Advanced Planning, and I believe another secretary was here, along with other members of his staff. And the mayor and others with the city gave him a tour of the Port of Laredo. The whole point is, in any international bridge, there's two sponsors. World Trade Expansion, the sponsor on the U.S. side is the city of Laredo, and the state of Tamaulipas as the concession holder for World Trade Bridge is the concession holder and the sponsor for Mexico. So Monday was a monumental occurrence for this project in that we have been working with the state of Tamaulipas with the previous administration. We have a new administration, we have a new mayor, we have new council members. So they were able to be in a room together Monday. Everybody put on our best dog and pony show, if you will, to show the governor how important it is to the state of Tamaulipas and the state of Texas, city of Laredo, and the nation for that matter. Most of this presentation is almost exactly what we had that we showed the governor on Monday. My purpose in leaving it there is because there's a lot of things that have happened over the last several years that even MPO members may not be aware of as what's going on at World Trade Bridge. So with that introduction, I would like to move forward. This is World Trade Bridge today, and this is, many people have shown pictures where you can see the bridge is full. On the right, bottom right, that's the port of entry on the U.S. side. It's backed up. There's 15 lanes there. We're getting close to capacity for World Trade Bridge. There are some things that have been done in the past. There's some things that are just being finished, and the expansion of World Trade is another step. These are excerpts from the presidential permit that we submitted in April for expanding World Trade Bridge and for the need and the purpose of expanding World Trade Bridge. And I say excerpts because that document, the basic document was over 100 pages, and it had exhibits that were many, many pages long. But number one, the World Trade Bridge is the #1 commercial crossing on the U.S.-Mexico border. That's statistically proven day in and day out. I think we're only behind the port of Los Angeles as far as trade is concerned. Trade continues to grow rapidly. Projections when we started working on this project, and even TxDOT 2 years ago in their border master plan projected 3 to 5% increase in trade. The most recent numbers we got from Customs is it's 4 to 9%, 9%, pushing on 9% right now, even with the downturn for the COVID. There have been and continue to be major infrastructure improvements by the private sector all up and down the Mines Road corridor and in the area of World Trade Bridge. There are significant local, state, and federal investments in transportation infrastructure in that entire region of Laredo that are ongoing today. You talked about just one. That's a major improvement needed for that region, and there are others, many others. And this project will reduce the wait times and increase the system throughput at the World Trade Bridge. These are some enhancements that have been previously completed at World Trade Bridge. Back in 2011, the primaries were expanded to 15 primary lanes. You can see, let's see if I don't think I can do it on this screen, but I think there was 11 originally when the project was built. Now there's 15. That was a $5.4 million investment. That was an investment by the city of Laredo for expanding World Trade Bridge, and that was investment for the future. Also in this project, there were 2 secondary lanes added to exit into Loop 20 at that time. And that is going to reduce wait times anticipated by half, but technology has changed even since 2011, so you'll see some new other things coming up. Also, at the World Trade Bridge, there was a refrigerated inspection facility constructed. Again, this was a donation by the city of Laredo for $2.0 million. There's about 6 bays available for direct inspection of agricultural products. This is not frozen food, this is agricultural refrigerated products. But again, this is for projecting future growth at the port. City of Laredo also constructed what we call hazmat bridge retrofit. Right now, the existing bridge captures all of the runoff that goes onto the bridge, keeps it from going into the river. There is a vault, which that gentleman is standing in front of, that captures all the runoff, rainwater, everything. On the U.S. side, there's also one on the Mexican side. The purpose is to keep the drinking water of Laredo as clean as possible because we're just upstream from one of the major water intakes. The expansion project will also include a feature similar to this. And the City of Laredo invested $1.8 million. In addition to the bridge capture system, we installed and constructed this hazmat containment facility. This is in the middle of the facility. If a truck is leaking or has any problems, even with diesel fuel, they can be pushed or driven into this, and everything can be contained. The underground storage containment here is about 1 tanker, so it can be contained. Very recent projects that have been completed. This is the fast lane. This is the, right up, you can see up on top of the screen, that's the International Bridge. Right now we have 4 primary lanes constructed. One of them is right in front of you, is lane number 1. There's a Z portal in that lane. The other 3 are a little bit to the left. This will open in about 2 weeks. Right now, the construction itself is basically complete. CBP's out there. I believe they're going to start tomorrow actually installing their computers. All the fiber and everything's been done. So they're going to go do their testing, get all their computers installed, and we're hoping to have a go live maybe right at the end of January, early February.
Did Summit do this? I'm sorry, May I?
Right.
Did Summit do that project?
I'm sorry?
Summit?
Summit is the contractor, yes, sir. They were the contractor for the project. We're still not 100% there with them on their project, but they've gone through done everything for us. We're working daily and talking with them daily. This project will take all of the fast traffic, the CTPAT traffic that's in the port now that you saw going to those other 17 lanes, and it'll redirect that CTPAT traffic here directly off the bridge. If you can look way down there, there's 1 lane on the bridge dedicated to fast today. That's going to shoot straight into these 4 lanes. What you can't see behind where this picture was taken is this project goes directly to I-69W. We go from 4 lanes to 2 lanes to 1 lane, and it merges with the other 5 lanes of exit right onto 69W at the end of the port. So this will be a direct and fast processing facility. I think it's the only one that exists that's a straight shot like this on the whole southern border. We think it'll be a vast improvement as far as throughput in that. Right now, when I show you the layout for the expansion project, it'll take away a lot of maneuvering that has to happen between the fast traffic and the non-fast traffic. It'll allow these fast trucks to go straight up through the port. Timing for processing for fast traffic is about 2 to 5 minutes max versus 15 to 20 for a non-commercial, non-fast truck. So they'll be able to zip through here. There's 4 lanes available today. This area is expandable for another 2 lanes if need be in the future. And again, it goes right into I-69W. And then another project, and I correct, please allow me a little leeway because I wasn't sure exactly if this project was completed or not, so I put it at the end of this quarter. I think I saw barrels out there the other day, so I didn't show it, it's complete. But TxDOT widened I-69W from the port of entry all the way to I-35W in multiple projects, but the last one was right over Mines Road and right into the port of entry. Now we have 3 lanes exiting the port of entry, where 2 years ago, we only had 1. We had 2 physical lanes, but we had a weigh in motion scale and all the trucks had to go to 1. So I always kid the previous district engineer, it's the first time we ever had a project start that doubled the capacity of the roadway for the start of a construction project because the weigh in motion went away. where we immediately had 2 lanes. Now we have 3. So this project's almost complete, if not complete. I apologize if it is complete, so. Anyway, World Trade Bridge enhancements, and these you probably know a lot more about it than I do, but that are ongoing and under design. And my purpose in showing this was to show the governor that there's a lot of things going on in Laredo, in Webb County, and for TxDOT in this district. So TxDOT has the I-69W and I-35 direct connector projects. 3 are completed, 3 are under construction. I think 2 are awaiting funding, and you guys know more about that than I do. So, and then of course you talked about the HR Ruthinger Parkway, and there's also the Viacio Road and the Mines Road. TxDOT has a Mines Road intersection project they're working on to try to make that intersection work better, and they're working on expansion of I-35 way out to, I guess, beyond the checkpoint. So that's going to help a lot of traffic get through. Once it gets through the processing here in the Laredo region, it'll help it going north. So there's a lot of activity that's happened and a lot of activity that's still going on, and some of it's still awaiting funding. However, right now, the logical step now for throughput at World Trade Bridge is to expand the bridge itself. This is our current conceptual design for the project. What we're proposing to do is to construct a new bridge slightly downstream and diagonally across from the old bridge. This is proposed to be 8 lanes. I think I've made this presentation to you guys before, but this is an 8-lane bridge, and it's entirely dedicated to inbound or northbound traffic. So we'll be able to take everything but the fast traffic, put them on 8 lanes across the bridge, and shoot them directly into those 15 lanes of primary. That's going to take away that area that you see that's kind of in black there, that's an S-curve. That is a bottleneck, has been for many years. That's a function of design guide from GSA from the mid-90s. It's a way that we used to design ports of entry. But anyway, that bottleneck takes the 4 lanes that are there today on the existing bridge, and because of the curve and everything, it effectively makes 3 lanes of traffic going around. So we're going to eliminate that. That roadway doesn't go away. It's going to be an internal access road, but it'll allow us to take 8 lanes directly into the primaries in the port of entry. And I mentioned that non-fast traffic is going to be on that bridge. We're going to maintain 2 lanes of traffic, which will be the 2 most downstream lanes for fast. So they'll still be able to go across coming from the current processing facilities on the Mexican side, going directly across the existing bridge to the current fast lane that we're going to open in 2 weeks. So those 2 lanes will be dedicated to fast. And then to assist with southbound traffic, this project will also construct 2 additional lanes, southbound or outbound, between the toll plaza on the U.S. side and the toll plaza or the inspection facilities on the Mexican side. So we believe this will increase throughput dramatically on both sides of the border. One thing that's important, and we thought that Monday was such a monumental day, is because Mexico is also going to be doing some improvements in their port of entry to help the throughput on their side. They've already made some presentations. They're working on some designs. We want to establish a binational working group of engineers and planners to get those projects done to finish our conceptual design, because, as I mentioned, we have to get it permitted on the Mexican side as well as the U.S. side. This is a brief slide just showing the lane assignments. As I mentioned, the new bridge will be 8 lanes inbound, northbound in the United States. The old bridge, we're going to add 2 lanes, so the existing bridge with the 2 new lanes will be 2 fast lanes coming inbound, northbound, and 6 lanes going into Mexico. Progress we've made since we got started on the project, we established a interagency working group on March the 8th of this year. That group right now is composed of GSA, CBP, Federal Highway Administration, TxDOT at the Laredo District, City of Laredo, and our consulting firm. We just made contact with U.S. Coast Guard And they will be a member of this group also in the coming months. And that fact was brought the discussion up, I believe, with Kurt from Austin, from the Texas Division of FHWA, who suggested we give this meeting today. On April the 29th, we submitted our presidential permit application to the Department of State for the bridge expansion. Last July, the project was approved in the Texas STIP, approved by the federal FHWA at the federal level. And this actually is project CSJ number 0922-33-213. In August the 29th, we also received some, what we consider not so good news, but the city of Laredo received a letter from the U.S. Department of State stating that the NEPA clearance must be completed prior to any further processing of the presidential permit application. This is the current administration looked at the executive order that's there, and they changed the procedures that have been followed by the previous administration. It's just something that happens. So anyway, so we were already preparing to begin the NEPA clearance, which is the first step anyway, and the critical path on the International Bridge project. So having the funding there, the way we had established it is to try to get FHWA, and they're in agreement to be the lead federal agency for our NEPA clearance. They're the ones that will be issuing the funds. And we had attempted to then bring TxDOT into the project by getting a advanced funding agreement signed, which the funding agreement is actually for construction funds. But by getting it signed, it binds that federal money to the project for construction in future years. But that also allows FHWA to be the lead agency. So anyway, in November, we got the draft AFA from TxDOT here at the district. We reviewed it, sent comments back. And so now at this point, we're waiting for the signatures from Austin on the AFA. And that's basically the next step to get the NEPA process cleared. Okay, this is our updated timeline based on the information we received from the Department of State. Hopefully we'll get the AFA signed in the next month or so. We're ready and waiting. We anticipate about a 2-year timeline to do the NEPA clearance, and that's based on experience working on international bridges up and down the border. We're anticipating an EA level document and not anymore, but we already know that there's an endangered species in the river right by the World Trade Bridge. It's a mussel, and we're gonna have to go, and with that knowledge, we're tailoring our environmental process to hit that first and get those studies ongoing first. So we're hoping that by July 2025, after we get the FONSI, that the president will continue with the review of the presidential permit application. And we've allowed 3 months for that final review and issuance of the presidential permit. Again, this presidential permit is only for an expansion of the existing bridge. The existing bridge has a permit in place, and there are known traffic values that we used in our application. So anyway, that said, October 2025 through December 2025, we have all the other permits to get. We have to get a U.S. Coast Guard permit. Believe it or not, this is a navigable water. The Rio Grande there is considered navigable by U.S. federal government, so we have to get a Coast Guard permit. We also have IBWC permits to obtain, and then we have a Corps of Engineers permit that deals with pushing soil into the river and other erosion control issues. So we want to do those by the end of December 2025. And again, those can't be done until we get our presidential permit.
God forbid the presidential permit covers all this.
Sir?
God forbid the presidential permit would cover all this.
It will,
What
yes.
I'm trying to say is that it's so sad that we're having to do all these permits when in all reality, just cover it with one, but that's the federal government for you.
I'm not going to comment.
I did.
Judge, I know. I agree. January 2026 through October 2027 we're considering our construction period. This will be phased construction because we do have those 2 lanes on the existing bridge. Our current rough phasing plan is to build a new bridge, shift the northbound traffic over there, gives us a little room to move traffic over and do the other 2 lanes. We'll have to knock off the overhang on the upstream end and then build the other 2 lanes, tie it directly in there. And so our target is December 2027 to have both bridges fully operational and moving forward. So time is of the essence, and we want to keep going with that. My one point I want to put at this point is the execution of the AFA is the critical path of the project today. And as soon as we can get that signed, we're ready to begin with the project.
Thank you.
At that point, I'm open to questions.
Thank you.
We're
Any
good.
questions?
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it.
You're welcome.
Okay. We move on to status report by the Regional Mobility Authority, RMA.
Very quick, right?
Mayor,
Yes,
can
go
I speak
ahead.
real quick? Before we do that, I don't know, and on the next steps, it says that they're requesting a letter from the city and from Tamaulipas. I just wanted to know if we were on track to provide that letter? Yes, okay.
Yeah, we are.
Quick presentation from Mark May.
RMA?
In your packet at the back, we have provided updates on the 8 active projects that we're working on. We do this so that you can read through it. If you have questions, we can answer any specific questions. If not,
Thank you.
Any questions?
Not at this time.
it's in the agenda packet. If you go through it's the very last page probably, or last 2 pages, maybe.
And Mayor, if I may, I'll just point out that one of those projects is the River Road Corridor Study that the MPO is also funding. So that project is ongoing. It's a study to come up with the best alignment for a river road adjacent to Mines Road. So that's an ongoing project.
Mayor, may I ask?
Yes, go ahead.
So the River Road, are we on track with that one, or is any surprises with that one too?
We don't anticipate any surprises. This summer, we'll come back with recommendations on what the study indicates is the recommended alignment.
Is it still set for February?
No, that's that's supposed to be done by the middle of the summer. By June of '23 is when the recommended alignment should come back. But then it goes to funding. How do we pay for it?
Is, Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
So is there hope for an alignment that doesn't already have something built in the way? I know we were having some obstacles with some of the options because there was already development.
There's always hope, but you know, when you look at a roadway that's that long in length, there's going to be obstacles, whether it's drainage or existing infrastructure, and you just have to deal with the obstacles. I mean, I look forward to seeing the completed report and bringing it back in. And if you want an update, we can provide that update before the report goes hard and just let you know, because it impacts your district.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I believe the next steps for that study right now is we're gonna do some traffic analysis based on the feedback we got back from stakeholders, so they're narrowing down the alternatives. But I know there is gonna be, during the course of the study, presentations to the MPO and to the city of Laredo as well. That's scheduled.
I know when you had your meeting on the Mines Road, that this was one of the roadway projects the residents out there were real excited, hopefully gets built someday.
All right, any other questions or comments? Directors, comments?
If I may just add
Yes,
before
go
the
ahead.
director's comment, thank you.
Go ahead.
I had just spoken to the mayor about this, and I have spoken to Juan, actually probably the last 2 years. But I've been just kind of, and I've spoken to pretty much everybody else, I believe. I was just curious if we could bring an agenda item on, and being almost all the MPOs, the way they work it is they change chairs between the mayor and the county judge, or some of them actually change in individuals. It depends on which one you're looking at. But I would like, I mean, I just think it's important if it's a Webb County, City of Laredo MPO, I think it's important for us to maybe every year take turns, and it's not just for me, but it's also for the future. I know we'd have to change the bylaws and all that. It also depends on the board, how they're gonna vote, which I totally understand for or against. It doesn't bother me at all whether I lose it or don't. But I was just hoping to see if we could go ahead and start maybe every year or every 2 years having a new chair. So that would be my ask, if you could bring this on for the next meeting.
Second.
I wanted to wait till this very meeting because I didn't want anybody to feel like I was bombarding them or I was taking it to their, beside, around their backs. That's not who I am.
Okay, we'll bring that back, so I don't think we can actually make a motion since there's no item on that, but I'll bring back at the next meeting.
If you don't mind.
And I know you had mentioned that to me, so it's part of the process review that we're doing. We're gonna come back at the end with a set of bylaws, and I've already mentioned to the person that's helping us with that process review, that that's one of the things
Yeah,
that we're looking at.
this is one of the only MPOs that actually just has that one chair. Everybody else just kind of moves, and I think that's important.
And Judge, Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
And just to piggyback off that, I know we had talked about structurally, how this how this was gonna be structured as far as like, we don't even, we haven't even confirmed Mr. Mendiva, actually, as.
Sid, I'm
We're
sorry.
gonna have an
who?
agenda item for that.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I think we need to finalize, like, the director and everything for the MPO, because right now he's still interim and.
He's
and
doing a
all
good
that.
job, isn't he?
No, I know, but I think we should also talk about that as an agenda item as well.
Bring it on then.
Next meeting.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Good idea. Bring it on if you don't mind.
Finalizing the structure and.
But as part of my report, I'll bring that back
about-
You want a raise too? Is that what it said in the report?
on the agenda. But
Okay,
You can add that too.
as part of the report, I'll mention that we have ongoing conversations with the city to try to analyze everything. So there's some ideas of how to move forward. There's some.
You got red. You started playing with your tie there.
We all do, right?
No, it's a public meeting, so.
Okay.
That's good.
I'm sorry.
Any other
Mayor.
comments?
So yeah, just the updates. I wanted to welcome, our new chairman, City of Laredo Mayor, Dr. Victor Trevino, to the policy committee. So welcome to the committee.
Victor.
And congratulations again. We also would like to welcome Chet A. Brown, member at large to the MPO policy committee. I know Mr. Brown was, the policy committee approved his appointment in the November meeting. So thank you. And of course, we would also like to thank former Mayor Pete Sines for his leadership as chairman of the MPO policy committee, for his dedication and contribution to the MPO and the community, as well as thank former council member Dr. Marta Martinez for his leadership, dedication, and contribution to the community during his time as a member of this MPO policy committee. The next item that I wanted to mention in my report was the transportation alternative set-aside call for projects, which are those Category 9 funds that the judge was asking about. So that closed on November 18, 2022. 2 applications were received and reviewed by staff. The evaluation committee will review those applications this month, and they will make a recommendation to the technical and policy committee. So you should be seeing that in the February meeting for project selection. Also, we'll be making a formal request to TxDOT or field representative to help coordinate and schedule a training for the MPO policy committee members and technical members. So it's an MPO 101 training. I believe some of you might have attended one of those in the past, but I know we have new members, so we want to make sure and do that as soon as possible. So we're hoping maybe sometime in March. So that's something that I know I've kind of mentioned to Sara, but I'll be reaching out formally to her. And our upcoming regularly scheduled meetings, we have our Active Transportation Committee meeting virtually on January 25th, 2023. Our technical committee will be February 7th, 2023. And our next policy committee meeting will be next month, February 15th, 2023, same time here at council chambers. That's all I have for updates. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Mayor, I just wanted to, as well, congratulate you and Jed and everybody else that's new on the board, and congratulations. And I know, Mayor, you have reiterated the word working together over and over to me, so I appreciate that. Congratulations and welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? No? All right. Adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Motion passes. Adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.